What's up everybody, Alex Press Play here, and today we're talking about the hidden source settings tab for when you're using raw light in Adobe Premiere Pro CC. So I was on YouTube the other day and I was checking out Abel Cine's page, which you guys have probably seen them. Jem Schofield is actually commissioned by Canon to do C200 stuff, Canon promoted stuff. He actually did the C200 like official tutorial series that came out, I think it was January of this year. So he had a video recently that was about, oh hey, Premiere supports raw light codec. Here's how to use it in Premiere Pro CC. And he opened up the file in Premiere Pro and didn't do anything. He just opened it up and was like, oh hey, look, it takes the file. Yeah, we know. And that's all he did. And then he messed with Lumetri color. I had a huge problem with that because when you're changing exposure and you have problems with your raw footage, you don't use Lumetri color panel. There's this entire section in the effects panel designed to deal with raw footage, specifically the Canon raw footage. And it's an awesome, and I found out, a sometimes untapped and unknown about feature. And I'm going to show you all about that right now. So here we are in Premiere. I pulled a couple sample clips down here into the timeline, and I want to show you this raw tab. So without wasting any time, this is the thing that Jem Schofield from Abel Cine missed, which I found out, which I find crazy. So in the effects controls, you know, when you're messing with Lumetri, you get a little effects addition in here, and you can change those things here. But right to the left, this is your Cinema Raw Light source settings. Changing the settings at the source. Taking the raw image that isn't even a video file yet, hasn't been debayered yet, and changing the things that you would have changed in camera. So, from the fundamental point that Jem missed, is changed exposure here. Okay? And I even made an example. So here's your exposure right here in this tab. And I brought it down by 1. Okay, you can actually see how nice it's just like doing it in camera. Okay? Goes down and down and down and down. Now if you were to do that in Lumetri like he did, here on the second clip I did it in Lumetri. See how washed out this gets? So this is 0. Now as we bring it down, changing exposure from over here is just different. It's changing the image that you're already giving it. Okay, it's not the raw file. It's not going into the raw settings and changing the exposure. It's taking the debayered image that you're putting on the timeline and then changing that exposure. Okay, the reason why is because you have this. This is changing, sorry, not this. This is changing the source. The raw light source settings is changing the source. This is for changing the image after the fact. This would be what you would use, you know, to change exposure in any other compressed image, an MP4 image, an MXF, whatever it is, anything that's not raw. But because we have raw, because we have all this extra data, this is one of the benefits. Of course, we do have all that dense, you know, data to color grade. But the big thing that I want to make a point of is if you're, you know, if your image is too hot and you're clipping highlights, you want to go over to here. You do not want to go over to here. That's it. Okay. Now, if you haven't seen this tab over here, and you work with the C200 and raw light, then this should be awesome for you. This is the tab you need to know. Going back to here, so just to actually do the quick comparison, let's take this back to 1. -1. Did I do negative? Oh, I did. Sorry. My bad eyesight. -1. -1. Losing Lumetri. Using the source settings. You just need to, that's what the source settings are for. Do it in camera, essentially, quote unquote, in camera after the fact that you're not doing it in camera. Technically, it's like just like doing it in camera. So the other thing too, again, if you haven't been in this tab, is this is where you change your C-Log settings. So, you know, I shoot in C-Log 3. when you first bring it in, it's going to show you C-Log2. See, I already changed this. C-Log2 is great. It gives you the full 15 stops of dynamic range. If you want to work with C-Log2, then that's great. Do it. But you can change it. Feel free to change it to C-Log3, which will actually give you a little more contrast. It's not as flat as C-Log2. And then you have 709, YDR, and DCI. And you can mess with those as well. And then you can also change the color, space. Cinema Gamut 2020, 709, P3. And then, besides exposure, you have your tint, your green tint, pink tint. So if you need to have issues with white balance, that's where you would do that. And then, of course, this is where you would set your white balance or your color balance, color temperature, sorry. Not over here. Again, work with it with the raw source, like in camera, not after the image is debayered. So that's it. Quick little look at the Cinema Raw Light source settings if you haven't seen it before. Hope it helps.